Hey everyone, Michael Pickens here with the Libertarian Leadership Academy with our weekday candidate and activist spotlight. Today we have a gentleman named Gage Beck. He's coming from Las Vegas, Nevada. He's an LP candidate for Assembly District 13. He has a background in helping teach refugees and asylum seekers English, as well as teaching summer reading programs to kids. Gage, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you running for office. You know, running for office as a libertarian isn't always easy, but there's usually a reason why the candidates are so passionate about running. Can you talk about, the reasons why you're running?
I mean, first and foremost, I'd be running for the people of Assembly District 13. And it's in their interest that somebody gets into office that's going to shoot down Assembly Bill 5. That's the Hollywood tax credit bill.
Okay.
It
What is that
pops up
about?
it pops up every couple of years. It's a different dollar amount every time. Sometimes it's as low as 175 million. Sometimes it's as high as 1.6 billion. But the idea is that to incentivize Hollywood to come to Nevada, they're going to provide tax credits to the giant companies and stuff. I think Mark Wahlberg, his company was the last one to come up. But that money's not free, of course. It'd be expecting the taxpayers here to subsidize Hollywood productions, and we're not going to do that. Unfortunately, the incumbent, Brian Hibbets, voted yes on AB 5. Luckily, it was shot down in the Senate, but that can change. Bad bills are very hard to kill for good. So that would be the first priority.
Gotcha. Is there anything else that really, are you passionate against Hollywood, or is it just something that you're against? Okay.
No, no, I would love for Hollywood to come here, but I just don't want Nevadans to pay for it,
Sure.
Or if they're going to pay for it at the ballot box or the box office,
Yeah.
Because we've already had plenty of films here without the tax credits. We had Vegas Vacation, and then we had a lot of much better films too, luckily. So yeah, another priority, of course, would be, should the people of Assembly District 13 elect me, I'd be very grateful. I would be the first libertarian elected to state legislature. It'd be me representing the whole party. I would do what I can to open up ballot access, not just to libertarians, but to independent candidates, to, even other parties and stuff. It's way too restrictive, as anybody can attest to.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the requirements to get on the ballot, you gotta collect a bunch of signatures. How does that work in Nevada?
Yeah, something like 1% of the voting population, that many signatures per, I believe, assembly district. That adds up fast. There's a reason that there's only right now 4 parties that have ballot access. Besides the obvious 2, there's us, and then there's something called the Independent Party, the Independent American Party.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, if we had 1% of the registered voters registered to us, that would also give us ballot access, but that's difficult.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's a reason that the Greens aren't on the ballot, the Forward Party's not on the ballot, Reform Party's not on the ballot. Funny enough, there was that group, No Labels. They kind of snuck quietly on, and then they snuck away, as mysteriously as they came. And sure enough, they were backed by hundreds of millions of dollars of dark money.
Yeah.
We don't have that. We don't want that. So yeah, I would lower the requirements.
Yeah. Aren't we supposed to live in a democracy, a representative democracy? Obviously, we should live in a representative republic. I just look at it as oligarchy with extra steps, because that's what happens, right? Once they get elected, then they just vote however they want, and there's nothing we can do about it for the next 2 years or 4 years, however long the term is.
Yeah, and without a third party, there's nobody to keep the main 2 in check. Even their registered voters, even a dedicated Republican or Democrat could agree that their party needs the fear of God in them. They need to be as good or better than us, and they're not even close. So yes, I would absolutely like to change that.
Yeah, a lot of times, the libertarian candidate is talking about issues that the other old parties are not talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some other issues that you care about that you're going to be supporting through your campaign?
So should I be elected? One of the things I would put forth, I would put out a bill outlawing the use of Nutraloaf in our correctional facilities. Now that's a very niche issue, but it's also something that would be very likely to pass. No matter who's the governor, no matter who controls both chambers, I think everybody can agree that Nutraloaf. Have you heard of it before?
I've never heard of it. Go ahead, explain it, please.
It's a form of punishment used in prisons. Um, they just take canned food, fruits, vegetables, tomato sauce, all this different stuff, and they put it together into a mush, to a mash, into pig food, and then they no water added, by the way, and then they cook it until it's inedibly hard, and it's a punishment, obviously, but cruel and unusual punishment. Mm-mm. I
So
mean, it should be
they're feeding inmates like a fruit cake, if you will, of everything just mushed together, and then they heat it until it becomes hardtack.
yeah, until you can bang it against the table.
Interesting. Are
Yeah,
the
it's been
prisons there private or public?
um shoot, I forgot. Sorry, nervousness.
It's okay.
But no, we certainly have public prisons though. There's a few states that have banned it already. And really the Supreme Court should have banned it years ago, or should have said that it's not constitutional, because it's not. It shouldn't be left up to the state legislatures to do that, but I guess it is, and so that'll be one of my priorities, is to step up and do that. To put us.
That is interesting. I have never heard of Nutraloaf.
Yeah, it's pretty barbaric. Another priority of mine would actually to be reviving a bill called SB 95. So unfortunately, that died on the Senate floor, I believe. I believe it didn't even reach a vote or whatever. SB 95, though, how do I explain it? When our servicemen and servicewomen in the Nevada National Guard, when they're punished, oftentimes they don't receive a trial. It's a very unilateral punishment given to them by, an officer or, whoever's in charge. SB 95 would give them the option to receive trial by peers in a, in a court martial. So it would give them the option to have that, which is something that shouldn't be not denied to them, because the only reason that they would request a trial like that is if they were correct, if they were innocent. So yeah, that would be restoring the right to jury by peer, trial by peer for Nevada National Guard.
That sounds pretty reasonable. So basically, they have a commissioner that just decides the punishment, whether he's guilty or innocent, just looks at it, and that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a bipartisan bill, which is so interesting that it would die, and so unceremoniously as well. So yes, that's something that absolutely should pass with tripartisan support. And I don't care if I'm the one who penned it or not. I just want it.
Yeah.
I want it enacted.
Awesome. What are some other issues?
I mean, there's so many, especially on the national scale. I mean, really, this upcoming election is going to be so interesting, where it all falls, who wins the governorship, for example. If Lombardo wins re-election, that would be very different than whoever the Democrat's going to end up being, probably Aaron Ford or whatever. That would decide really which parts of our agenda, are likely to pass and which ones aren't. If Lombardo does win, it would be a lot more feasible to pursue a school voucher program. So that's generally backed by the Republicans here. I think there's a few Democrats that either support it or maybe they could be swayed, Meanwhile, sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, we definitely need options in education. Right
Mhm.
now in many states, I think there's only a few that even have a voucher system in place. The stranglehold that the public education system has on educating children is tight through the unions. Now, I'm a product of public education, but I was a solid D student, and I
I'm
really
sorry.
didn't. Yeah, I really didn't get my education until afterwards, until I figured out that I could learn on my own, that I could study and find information. And it seems like the public school system isn't teaching kids that. It's a cookie cutter, one size fits all for everyone. And I went into construction after high school, but if I was 15 and they said, "Hey, do you want to go to a trade school to learn construction?" I probably would have went,
Mhm.
because that would have been way more interesting. I failed algebra 1 3 times in a row. And the reason why, I told the teacher, show me where I'm going to use this later in life.
Mhm.
And they would, my counselor and the algebra teacher, that they'd list off all these different jobs that needed algebra, and I'm like, not doing that, not doing that, not doing that, not doing that. Okay, well, I'm good, I don't need this class. Well, say, oh, you have to have this class, you have to. It's like, so this one size fits all cookie cutter education system is not serving anyone besides the teachers union and the administrators. So that's a good issue to get behind.
Very well put. Very good indicator of who has experience doing these podcasts and who doesn't. Um, yeah, I will say, without choice, there's no competition, and without competition, there's no quality.
Correct. There's no reason for the quality to get better if they know that they're the only game in town, or the only other option, right, is to homeschool your children,
Mhm.
where you still have to pay property taxes for all the other kids going to government education, and then you have to pay for all the extracurricular stuff like we do. We have to pay for all the extracurricular stuff for our kids, and then the other option is private school, which is expensive, and not all the times it's going to be better. Around here, the only private schools that are available are all religious schools.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, which religion do you want to indoctrinate your kids under if you want to go that route? So what'll
Yeah,
happen with the voucher system is they'll all these new micro schools will start popping up, and trade schools for younger kids like 13, 14. If a kid's into cars, he should be able to go to a school that's going to teach him mechanics and teach him engineering and teach him these other things that fall in line with his passion. Because what happens is these kids are losing years of their life, and then they turn 18, and now their life is really starting, and they're going to be able to pursue the things that they care about. Instead, they should be able to pursue those at 13 or 14, even if they don't decide to make it a career, because they'll be able to at least learn about it and say, you know what, mechanics is not for me. I did 2 years in mechanic trade school, and I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. So then they can switch to a different trade school. So,
yeah. Luckily, I had a similar experience. I got to do a automo automotive program at the, funny enough, the Clark County Skills Center in Washington, and that's when I
okay.
learned I hate cars. I don't want to do that for a living. Uh,
So that was a good example then. It was real life.
and there's discussion about the voucher system within, like, the Libertarian Party in Nevada, for
Sure.
example. There are some who are against it, and I just want to say really quick that the voucher system is not written in the stars.
Hmm.
The reason I bring it up is that I've heard a lot of good arguments for it, and there's already a strong backing for it. There's infrastructure in place for it. But if it were to pass, for example, that wouldn't just be the end of. Wouldn't be the end of it. That's anyways. Okay, balls back
Yeah,
in
there's
your.
a
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of different libertarian opinions on it. Some libertarians on the abolish the government side just say abolish government education, abolish compulsory education altogether. Parents should pay for educating their kids, which I get that argument as well. And then there's the more moderate position where if we're having to pay taxes for this, we should be able to choose where that money goes. And with a voucher system or a backpack system where the kid takes the money to whatever school they're going to, and that school gets the funds there. I mean, there's lots of different options. I am more of a pragmatic, step in the right direction voluntarist, which I would like everything to be voluntary. I want property taxes to be voluntary. You know, I, However, at the same time, I understand that the general public, in moving the needle, it's gonna take time to get there. So
Yeah, that's what's interesting about running as a libertarian is, you know, should I be, should I be fortunate enough to win? Um, I'd be the only one. I would most likely be the only one in Carson City, representing us. Um,
mhm.
There'd be a lot of pressure. There'd be a lot of eyes on me, and it would really be up to me to represent our party well and to prove, that we have the solutions. That we're the
Yep.
right choice. Funny enough, that becomes kind of becomes an Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail, where we need libertarians in office, to prove that we're a good choice, but we can't have libertarians in office until we prove we're a good choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way to do it is just to, once you get your website up, is to get your solutions up there, right? And then just come out with a lot of content based on those solutions to show people like, hey, if elected, this is what I'm going to do. Here's everything I'm going to implement. And if you agree with the majority of this stuff, vote for me, right? And I'm the thing is, I look at Republicans and Democrats, and most of the time they don't have solutions for anything. It's always just an attack on the other party. It's character assassination instead of actually solving the issues that people actually care about. You know,
Yeah, no, yeah, no, very, what's the word for it? Salient. That's right. Yeah, very salient point. Yeah, the ugliness of politics. I mean, you could say it's always been ugly. It's definitely been ugly since at least the 60s. But it's gotten so much worse in recent years, and I think that it's making people too cynical to get involved. And the problem with people not getting involved is that you won't break quorum by withholding your vote. You
yeah,
know, if you don't vote, the election still happens. Somebody still wins. Even if you turn in a blank ballot and vote for no one, that still sends at least a message.
yeah.
If you don't vote, then the message is, well, there is no message. Um,
Well, in too many districts around the country at all levels of government, there are races that are unopposed, where
mhm.
it's just a Republican or just a Democrat, there's no opponent, or it's just a Republican and a Democrat, and that's it. And I've experienced that here where I live now. I moved here 5 years ago and I did not re register to vote when I moved here. And I only re registered to vote last year just because there was like one candidate on the ballot that I liked and that I supported. So I was like, okay, there's someone that I could actually support. When I was watching candidate forums, all the other candidates are just reading off a piece of paper, and that they're just either tools of the Democrat Party, just going on the party line. We need to increase salaries for teachers, and we need to increase revenue. We need to increase taxes for the schools, and like it's just the same stuff over and over again. But then there was one candidate that's like, no, we need to have vouchers. We need
Mhm.
and the government education needs to focus on the basics. And I was like, oh, okay, there's someone I can vote for. Now that candidate lost, of course, but I see it. I don't know if I'm the curse because all the candidates that I vote for have always lost, but who knows?
Well, you won't be voting for me at least. Um,
No, I won't curse you. I promise.
but at least that candidate went down fighting.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you got to stand up for what you believe in, and that's what this is all about. And obviously, this is your first run for office, and you're going to learn a whole lot through this whole process. You're going to build your website, your social media, you're going to get some volunteers and start building your donor base. And you may not win the election in November, but I guarantee you will have won in terms of the knowledge and experience that you get and the volunteers and the support and everything else. You're going to come out of this election way ahead from where you are right now. And then if you decide to run again, which I highly encourage running at least 3 times, you're going to already have a website ready. You're already going to have social media with thousands of followers on it. You're already going to have content. So the next time you run, it's like boom, you're already ready to go. You're already set up, rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Even in this call, I've learned bring more water. Um, many valuable lessons. Yeah, they're going to be hard
Yes.
lines. Um,
Are there any other issues that you care about that you're going to push in your campaign?
Me personally, right now, not really. Thinking that far into the future, it's usually kind of it's an exercise in catharsis, you know? Like, it's
Mhm.
fun to think, what am I going to do, if I have the
Yep.
magic scepter or whatever, but that's not going to be the case. Um, if I win, um, I'll hash out, I'll be cooperative with the Libertarian Party of Nevada to put out a coherent, effective agenda that, most importantly, satisfies the people of Assembly District 13.
Yep. So what I
My,
would recommend
Mhm.
is, I don't know if you remember when Justin Amash was in the legislature and Congress.
Those were wonderful
Um,
days.
yes. So one thing with him that I appreciated, and Ron Paul as well, is that he wasn't able to get legislation through. Neither was Ron Paul. But what they did is when they voted no, he explained why and in detail and why that bill was bad and why he voted no for it, and just putting the solutions out there and the reason for your vote. And I think that's pretty much all you're going to be able to do if elected, is just explain why you're against something. You know, you can put forward legislation,
Mhm.
absolutely put forward legislation, and hopefully it gets enough co-sponsors to even get on the floor to vote. But if you don't, like you just explain to people why you're voting a certain way.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I just realized that I've only been talking about putting forward legislation, which most of what I would be doing would be voting no, voting down bad legislation. There's generally well over 1,000 bills that come up per session.
Yep.
Uh, Most of them are lousy. I would take great pride and pleasure in shooting down so many of them. Um, I hate answering in generalities and in vague ways, but I would vote against any bill that infringes on the liberties of Nevadans. I mean, it's kind of simple as that. And
Yeah.
I
So
won't just go on.
what I would recommend doing now is the legislature in session.
No, it's biannual, as in every other year, not twice a year.
Oh, that's nice. So
Hmm.
then the legislative session isn't going to happen until next year.
Yep.
Okay, that's actually a good deal. Ours is every year, only for a few months, but it's every year. So that's good. I was going to recommend, with the bills coming through the legislative session this time around, is to start doing that now. But obviously, you can't. So,
Hmm.
have they already started putting bills up for next year?
Um, I haven't checked. We have a really good tab in the wonderful Libertarian Party of Nevada Discord server that keeps track of bad bills. Um, it's wonderful. Join it, find it, seek it out. But unfortunately, I didn't check soon enough.
Yeah, well, maybe you could just start doing that now. You know,
Yes,
you
yes.
talked about AB5 and some of the other pieces of
Mhm.
legislation that you're going to be against, and starting creating content around that. Tony Williams for Justice of the Peace says, good to see a younger candidate and libertarian. We need younger and non-traditional Dem rep perspectives. That's what pushed me to run. So
For
thank
you,
you,
Will.
Tony.
Appreciated.
And Tony, you need to reach out so you can come on the show. He comments almost every show and he still has not been on. So Tony, reach out.
Oh, yeah, Tony, it's not so bad. I went into this sweating bullets. Um,
You just
yeah.
need to bring enough water. Bring enough water.
Yeah, or
How
camel oil.
old are you? How old are you, Gage?
I'm in my late 20s.
Late 20s? Okay.
Yeah, it's good not to be too direct. Just like anytime you go to the doctors, they ask for your date of birth,
Yeah.
as if that is a secret code only you know. Like so many people, they put that on Facebook and stuff. Creeps me out. Yeah, actually, one of the best reasons, one of the biggest reasons that I'm running, is also to support other great candidates.
Mhm.
Um, I was fortunate enough right before this interview to watch the interview that you did with Stephen Borello, running for recorder, and he's talking about restoring privacy rights to Nevadans, and I'm like, oh, you know, I feel like a guy watching a movie who gets the reference, pointing out like, oh, I've also been concerned about that. It is really creepy that you register to vote, and now your private address is out there and your party registration.
Yeah.
So many people, they work jobs that are extremely partisan one way or another. You could be a teacher and they see your party registration that you're not a Democrat, and it's like, what are you, a fascist? Or you could be in
That's a
an
very good
auto
point.
shop. But yeah, the point is though, is that people should be able to keep their home address withheld, as well as their party registration. I know people who have been curious about joining our party, and I can't get them to do it because they don't want, some
They don't
kind
want
of
it publicly
theoretical
listed.
blowback. Huh?
They don't want it publicly listed, right? You said blowback, theoretical blowback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Here in Washington State, we do not have per party registration. You used to live here, you know that. So you just register to vote, and that's it. You don't pick a party. During primary season, you actually request whether you want a Democrat ballot or a Republican ballot. Only the major parties, qualified major parties here in Washington State, have primaries. So, yeah, you don't pick it.
Yeah, the privacy from Washington, that's good. I like that. The jungle primaries, on the other hand, I'm very glad we don't have that. I mean, there are instances where you're voting against literally like a Democrat or a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's the old joke, that Democrats and Republicans are the same. But it's really egregious when they're literally the same,
Yeah, for those listening, we have a top two primary system. The jungle primary, which you were talking about. So, like here in the 3rd congressional district where I live, there is 3 Republicans running, there are 2 Democrats running, and it looks like there's going to be 2 independents running. Well, only the top 2 vote getters from the primary move on to the general election. And in some cases, if there's a lot of Republican candidates splitting the vote, maybe 2 Democrats get through, or vice versa, where there's going to be 2 Democrats on the ballot or 2 Republicans on the ballot. And as much as people don't like it, I actually think it's a better system, and I'm going to explain why. And I think that for a libertarian, it's going to be easier to get second place in a primary than first place in the general if you're going against a bunch of candidates. Here in my county that I live in, one of the reasons why I moved here, because there was 3 county commissioner candidates up for election. There was a Democrat, a Libertarian, and an Independent. Well, the Libertarian made it through the top 2 primary, so beat out the Independent. So at the final November ballot, there was a Democrat and a Libertarian. Libertarian almost won 46.8% of the vote. So it was really close to where a Libertarian almost won. We just have to get second place to get to the general election. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah, I just look at the bright side of everything, the silver lining.
No, absolutely. Makes it a lot easier to get up in the morning.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're coming up on the 30-minute mark. Gage, is there anything else that you'd like to share? I know you don't have a website up yet, but do you have a Facebook page? Any way people can get a hold of you?
No, I'll get that stuff up. I've been really cautious about social media. I don't have much internet presence, for example. But no, yeah, I'll absolutely get the website up. Probably Gage for Envy, something like that.
Awesome. Well, let's have you back on after you get your website up and your social media stuff, and you can start accepting donations. So,
well, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again for running. For those of you watching who are considering running for office as a libertarian, please go to lp.org/run-for-office. You can fill out the form there and someone will be in contact. And then we're going to be doing these live streams as well. So if you are running and watching, please reach out and we'll get you on the live stream. So thank you so much, Gage.